y'all. Dropping gems. Time for Change Tuesday, 6 p.m. every other Tuesday. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I swear. My change agents, I'm so happy. I know that I'm getting you advance and you're growing. I'm so proud of you. If nobody told you, I really am. It's a lot going on. It takes a lot to be a leader. So we've been talking multiple segments about leadership, about communication, about your personality, about being self-aware. We've also talked about your decision-making skills. So we've definitely been talking about everything, but I had to do a set-aside segment, y'all. And this segment is about leadership, but it's also about a specific not for nonprofits. And the reason why is because as I grew my nonprofit, I was bombarded with like conflict of interest. And remember, we talked about that, right? And bombarded with conflict of interest, meaning that I had to worry about, being in operations and being a CEO, like how we discussed, but also being a chief of my board. And these are two different roles. These are two different things. And so I have to be sure that I bring it to your attention because it's going to be so important for you to be an effective leader if you are a nonprofit to know the differences and the nuances behind that. Because you could just be an owner, a sole proprietor for a profit, and you could run your company that way. But when you have a nonprofit, you have laws that bind you. You have a governance that bind you. You have specific conflicts that you need to pay attention to. And as a business owner, but also as a nonprofit owner and a for-profit owner, I know that in my for-profit, I could do many different things that I can't do in my nonprofit. So I wanted to have a segment just dedicated to that, and that's what this is today. Because if I would have known what I know now, I would have been an effective leader in a nonprofit world. And so I want to share this with you all so that way you could feel even more equipped if nonprofit land is where you want to go. So this can be applicable to other businesses as well, because what I found is that learning all of these different things has helped me to run my other company effective. So I've learned and I've grown, but nonprofit world is a different world, y'all, and I didn't know that. I just started with a mission and started to just do these great things in the community, and wanted to give back and was ordained to do what I do, and took in spirituality and took in making sure that I took care of myself and making sure that I preserved myself. But I have that the day will come where I will only be on the board and I will groom someone to be a CEO because it's going to be important. And I have been successful in being able to separate the two. But just like when we talked about like personal and business, we're going to talk about like polar things, like how do you separate those things as we move forward, because that's going to come up. It's going to come up. It came up like, how are you the chief of the board, and is this a conflict of interest, and is this your company, and you're the 1%, and you're this and that? Well, yes, but I have different policies in place to separate me from the company to make sure that I run my successful nonprofit the way how it needs to be ran. Okay. All right. So let's dive in. All right. So the first thing that you have to do is define, right, what it is to be an executive director. So an executive director in the CEO role, you need to be able to have that specific role. And remember, a CEO is within the operations, right? So it's very important for you to understand that you're in the operations when you are the CEO, okay? All right. Real life. All right. So balancing the mission, the management, and the community impact. So that's why when it comes to being a nonprofit leader, it's so important for you to be able to communicate in that way that I had talked to you about, right? To make sure that you are communicating in the way how you need to be. Okay? You always have to balance the mission, and you always have to balance the management of everything that's underneath you. And you also have to manage the community impact. So whether it's the social media, whether it's you communicating to other people, whether you're creating flyers, whether you're building business partnerships, you want your business partnerships to know exactly what you're doing. You're always talking up exactly what you're doing. Okay, you're a walk-in market of your nonprofit. Nobody else is going to be dedicated as much as you until you hire the right people, right? So if you're the only person that's walking around and you're being this CEO, you have to know that the management and the mission and the impact is all connected and should always be innate and ingrained in your communication. And we talked about that in the communication thing, but I haven't explicitly said it for a nonprofit leader how important it is. So it's very important for you to have that, right? So key leadership skills needed in today's nonprofit sector is definitely not just for you to be mission driven, but for you to understand how you're going to dance among all of the other stakeholders and amongst all of the other people, for how your mission is different, for them to donate to you, for them to do the things that they need, to give back to their community in your way. Okay? I say that lightly because I run off operations. I don't run off of donations because, no offense, but Black people do not donate. So if you are a Black person who is running a nonprofit, you are not the nonprofit that you've seen that has a $17 million budget, who collects donations of $300,000, who look of another color than us. We do not donate to missions. It's unfortunate. I just got to tell you that. It's you can get people to donate to your mission or what have you, but it will be your workers, it will be the people that work for you, it will be the people who maybe are connected to the people that work for you, right? But don't go into this with that. So people really like my nonprofit because I run my nonprofit like a for-profit, in that we provide services that we get paid for. We provide education that we get paid for. We provide services and psychotherapy that we get paid for. Everything that we do, we get paid for. But are we dedicated to the mission? Yes. Right? The mission is never lost. We are still supporting and still helping the same exact people that we're supposed to help. Now, that makes my company very unique because people are looking, right? So they're like, wait a minute, like, is this supposed to be this? Nope. IRS knows that I'm a 501c3 and that I am doing this work for the people, regardless of how much I'm doing for the people. They know that it's the money comes in and it goes right back to the budget for the help of the people. Students come to my school, they go to school for free. The reason why they go to school for free is because the funding is paying for them to go to school, right? So I'm in the mission, I'm in the management, I'm in the community trying to impact and give back. That is all connected to how I communicate and how I market my company and how I present it, okay? So that's going to be important. Now, that is key in leadership of a nonprofit. So if you ain't ready for that, do for-profit, please, because you have to pitch. You have to pitch. You have to have an elevated speech. You have to talk. And we could talk about that too. That's a skill. So you have to be able to talk. Now, understanding the board's responsibilities, right? So the board is your governance versus management. You have to know the difference. You have bylaws that you had to put in place. Remember, we talked about that in business establishment, where you had to do your bylaws and you had to do your articles of incorporation. Those are things that are in place that you must, who you are as the CEO, and regardless of who you are as the board member. Everything that was established at the beginning of your nonprofit does not move, it does not change, and it is a law for your company. And the reason why is because your company is owned by actually the city or the state that you're in, because you registered it as a nonprofit. You do not receive any money. So, me as a nonprofit owner, I have got to set my salary, and that's what it has to be. I have to have a separation of duty policy in place so that everybody in the government and everybody could know that this is my salary and I do not make any money off of what we are providing. Even when let's say I see clients, right? I might see more clients than anybody in the agency. That doesn't mean that my check is bigger. That just means that once I get to my rate of how much I'm supposed to get paid, that's it. That's it. So you have to be mindful, like, if you getting into this, you are getting into this to build something bigger than yourself, right? So you have to have that leadership mindset as a nonprofit business owner, okay? Now, you have the board has legal obligations and duties of the board. Like you have a board member, everybody should be having board minutes and meetings. You should be talking to your board. The board should be supporting you and aligning the policies to make sure that you, as the CEO, are in place and in order. All right? You have to have strategic oversight and accountability. So, my strategic oversight as the CEO, remember when I was talking about that? The reason why I was talking about that is because I'm also the chief of the board. So all of my stuff, I've been talking in future, right? The board should be talking in future because the CEO should be focused on the operations. Jim. The CEO should be focused on operations. Now, you're a real good CEO if you following the future stuff and the current stuff and you being present in the present, right? So I'm doing all of that right now. Now, the plan is to have built something so great, to give back to the community, to do everything that I've done, right? And sit on the board and still build it out for the future. I just can't do that because I'm in a situation where I build it up myself. So because I built it up myself, I have to build it all the way up to me to move over. But I gotta have somebody I trust to run it, right? And to still carry out the mission and everything at hand. But that is a blend of my responsibilities of teaching you how to be a good leader. So that's why I've been telling you from the beginning of how to be a good leader, because you could be a good leader, but the goal when you start your nonprofit should not be to work in your nonprofit the whole entire time. Your goal should be to be a board member. And look at me. I've been in business for 9 years. I'm still not retired. But eventually working into these different states and doing these different things is going to eventually happen. All right? That is what the board is for. So building a strong leader means that you have to have good board relationships. So healthy communications amongst your board, aligning your leadership and board on mission and vision. So, the reason why it's helpful for me to be the chief is because I'm also the founder. So I'm a founder, and I have it in my title, in my email, the founder and chief executive officer, right? Because I want people to know that I'm both, right? I don't have chief of board, but I am the chief of board. But then I have other people that's in the board that I know believe in the mission that I have. And I know they want the best for the company, right? And nobody is benefiting from it. But the people. So making sure that you have healthy practices in doing the meetings, doing the notes and stuff, and aligning your leadership and board on mission and vision. So sometimes you might have people on your board, like for instance, having a nurse, because I have a healthcare school, is probably a good add. Having the medical director, who's an MD, is a good add. Having a firefighter, a retired battalion chief, will be a good add, right? Having the mother of the founder will be a good ad. So you have to compose your board with people that you could trust and you know that they're going to value and they're going to roll out whatever it is that you need to roll out, your mission, vision, and driven. That way, if you fall out the day, tomorrow, it's still going to happen. All right? So you have to think about that. Avoiding common pitfalls. So like micromanagement, role confusion, lack of engagement, right? You have to engage with the board so that you won't have a role confusion. You have to have your policies of separation of duty because you need to understand that you can't do everything. Somebody else probably has to sign my checks, when it's certain government contracts and everything in place and grants. You have to have a physical responsibility from another person to make sure that you are not being of conflict of interest. Okay? So that is very, very important. You don't have to micromanage because if you are a good manager, you don't have to. If you are a good leader and you're communicating effectively, you don't have to. So you need to check yourself if you have to micromanage, okay? Everybody love working for me. We overwork. So I don't have to micromanage because if I know they ain't do it on this day, guess what? They gonna do it on that day. I had one staff on Friday just tell me like, look, I'm home. I had an emergency, but I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. Like, I'm still work from home. I got this to do and that to do, and I'm going to get it done. People don't tell you that. Like, they don't tell you that. But that is a blessing. That is a blessing. That's the dedication of the people that you have working for you. So, as long as you don't blur those lines and you know that you're an effective leader, then they know what's up. They know what's up. They're going to help you out. They know the deadlines are as important to you as they are important to them. It's important to them. Important to their job. So ethical and practical challenges, right? So navigating conflict of interest at the leadership or board level, right? So that would be me, right? So making sure that how you address that is you develop policies and procedures in place and with your bylaws, you develop them in place so that way if somebody said, oh, no, she's spending all this money on her lies, I can't because I have an outside audit CPA. I have to comply with. I have to have an internal physical responsibility, which means that somebody else, an accountant, is running all of the books. It's not me. I can't move the documents and move the books and do all of that. I started the company doing that, remember? But we grew. So I had to hire somebody to do what they're supposed to do. So see what I'm saying? So you see how I want you to pay attention to this, Jim. Every time I grew, I had to step out of a position to give somebody else who was trustworthy the role of what is needed to happen so that I won't be a conflict of interest. You follow that? Okay, that was a lot. Every time I grew, I had to step out of a position to make sure that somebody I trust was in that position. So yes, of course I taught you all this stuff and I was doing the bookkeeping at the beginning. But I'm in a physical, the type of money that Time for Change makes now, I can't be in that position to look at the books and cover the books and make sure that this and that. All I can do is supervise it and say, yep, that look about right. Yep, that look about right. Because when that auditor come, guess what? They don't work for me. They are on the outside. And because they're on the outside, it doesn't matter what I say. All I need to do is make sure that it's in compliance with what I said it was going to be. But I had to put somebody in that role. You see what I'm saying? You follow me? So that way, so every time as a nonprofit founder and owner, you're going to be breaking away your duties as you grow because you have to pivot and break your duties up. You have to. You have to say, oh, wait a minute, let me peel this off of me because I'm not doing this. Wait a minute, let me peel that off of me because I'm not doing that. Let me take this off of me because I'm not doing this. That is the practical changes and challenges and stuff that you have to deal with. You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention the whole time. Like, so my ultimate goal is to be this board member that is going to grow the company state by state and understand that it's going to be taken care of because the mission and all of the things that I built is going to stay in place because of the people that I hired to actually do the things that I need them to do. That's the goal. If that's not your goal, then you're not a nonprofit leader. You're a for-profit leader. You're a sole proprietor, right? That's the reason why I'm having this conversation, because you need to understand, like, yes, I am Mrs. TFC. I will always be Mrs. TFC because I founded it and I started it, and the stories will be about me because that's what it was. It will be about my brother. It will be about my family. It will be about all of the reasons why I developed healthcare. It will be about all of those things. And I will still be sitting on the board, still helping out and making some of those strategic decisions, right, that we talked about, that need to happen because you got to look ahead. And then the CEO that will be in place, I will be telling them, hey, these are some of the strategic decisions that the board is moving towards. We need you to make these informed decisions and communicate effectively to the staff to gear us to this way. Jim, yes, I'm dropping them, but are you following them? Are you catching them? It's a whole lot going on. But you're going to be an effective leader when I'm done with you from all things, right? So the thing that I want you to really take away is the training and continuous education for leaders and board members. You always going to have to do continuing education. Establishing clear policies, committees, and evaluation systems so that you know what exactly you're up against every single time you're up against it. And when you know that policy and you can say, no, this is not a conflict of interest because Tanya really doesn't do this. You need to be able to articulate that and communicate that. You always want to encourage diversity and inclusion and equity. And the reason why is because you want your team to be unique, elite, and different from the rest. I've been saying that since the beginning of time, y'all. Look at this. And here we are. We in October. And I've been saying this, right? Since the beginning. Unique, elite, and different from the rest. Yeah, DEI. I said it. All right. Make sure that you pick and select your board. As a nonprofit leader, I want to make sure that you're equipped. Make sure that you know what your role is as a CEO in operations. If you don't know, rewind and take a good listen again. I would like to thank you for listening to Time for Change. Dropping gems every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. Thank you, change agents, for joining me. I'm so excited about next things that are to come. You are now equipped to be an effective leader. If you've made it to this episode and you've been taking notes and you've already been implementing, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in November. I guess I'm going to November.